When it comes to competitive Pokemon, many people hate on it because they say there's only 9 usable Pokemons. And they're wrong. There's at least 12. But being honest, besides the 12 most used Pokemon in the game, I do believe there's about 30 to 40 viable Pokemon. So today I'm going to be showing you 5 Pokemon that I think are severely underrated and should honestly see a lot more play in Regulation G. Now coming in at number 5 on this list, I have Hitmontop. And you may be wondering, why Hitmontop? Well, when you look at the 2 most used Pokemon in the game right now, in Rillaboom and Incin, they share one thing, and that one thing is Fake Out. Not only does Hitmontop happen to have Fake Out, it's also the faster Fake Out user out of those 2. Now while Fake Out's also a good move, another good move is Wide Guard. Wide Guard stops your opponent from using spread attack damage, and with Pokemon like Calyrex Shadow Rider running around, it's very nice to have. Now not only do you have Wide Guard and Fake Out, you also have the move Feint, and if you don't know what Feint does, it allows you to attack your opponent and break their Protect. So your other Pokemon can honestly just do a large amount of damage, and you're not worried about protecting. Also, when an opponent's on 1 HP, since it's a priority move, it allows you to just knock it off the board and not allow it to get an attack down. Hitmontop also shares one other thing in common with Incin, and that's the fact that it has the insane ability Intimidate. Now, Hitmontop, when you look at its HP and defense, it's not the greatest, but with Intimidate lowering your opponent's attack, it's honestly pretty nice. Also, Hitmontop's a fighting type, so you know what it can do? Hit Incineroars with close combats, and most likely you might be able to knock your opponent off in 1 or 2 hits. And coming in at number 4, I have Galarian Moltres. Now honestly, the main reason you'd be using this Pokemon is to set up Tailwind. And you might be thinking, well, I can just use a Prankster Tailwind setter and even taunt this thing. Well, guess what? Since it's a dark type, you cannot. And speaking of dark types, there's a lack of fairy types in this format ever since Fluttermane suddenly just disappeared, which means Galarian Moltres is able to now sit on the field for a lot longer, especially without fairy stab on them. Now, if your Galarian Moltres does happen to take damage, it has an insane ability called Berserk, where once it gets down half of its HP, it gets a boost to its special attack. Now, Moltres already hits hard on its special attacking side, especially with its insane signature ability, Fiery Wrath, that it also allows you to hit both Pokemon with a chance to flinch. Now, you might not flinch every time, but flinching some of the time is very nice. And coming in at number 3, I have Entei. Now, when you see Entei, you might be thinking, well, I have an Incineroar, I have a better fire type. Well, you might be somewhat true. I think that's not true all the way. Entei has the insane ability Inner Focus, which allows it to not care about Intimidate and allows it to not care about Fake Out, which honestly somewhat invalidates Incineroar. Now you also have the nice move Extreme Speed, which allows you to move first with priority and move past any of your opponents that you might be afraid of. It also has the nice stab attack Sacred Fire. There's a 50% chance to burn. So let's say your opponent has an Urshifu and you somehow manage to fake it out and burn it in the same turn. That Urshifu is not scaring you as much anymore. And especially with the mechanic Terrestrialize, you're already less afraid of certain things. Now you might be thinking, well, Incineroar doesn't scare me that much, but how am I going to damage my Incineroar? This Pokemon comes with a great move of Stomping Tantrum, which allows you to take care of Incineroar in 2 hits. This Pokemon also I believe is best used with the Assault Vest and keeping the Boom Snarl on it, because when you're playing against Calyrex Shadow Riders, just snarl it to death, and you're going to take at least 3 to 4 hits before you even go down. But honestly, I just believe Entei is too slept on. Speaking of 2, coming in at number 2, we have Tinkaton. As I said earlier in this video, there's a lack of fairy types in this format, and Tinkaton's a great fairy type. Not only is it a fairy type, it's a fairy steel type, which honestly I believe is the best typing in this entire game. Now when speaking about Hitmontop earlier, the reason I thought it was a great mon is because it has Fake Out. Well, guess what? Tinkaton's an even faster Fake Out user. And guess what? It has Mold Breaker. So if your opponent were to switch in a Furgraph, you still don't care because you can Fake Out around it. Now even with the lack of fairy types, if there does still happen to be a fairy type on your opponent's side of the field, you have the great move Gigaton Hammer, which allows you to just straight up OHKO most fairies in this game. And another thing that this Pokemon has in similar with Hitmontop is it has Feint. And with this Pokemon having Mold Breaker, it's also a great supportive mon with moves such as Thunder Wave, because you're allowed to paralyze anything in this game that still isn't an electric type or ground type. And coming in at number 1, which I think is by far the most underused Pokemon in this regulation, Fluttermane. Now Fluttermane used to be the top dog, sitting at 60% usage in every tournament. Why did it fall off? I have no idea. Fairy types, honestly, are still very effective in this format because, again, there's no fairy types in this format, and many things don't take fairy type attacks well. So I think Fluttermane should honestly just be seeing more usage out there. I don't know. If you think there's 5 better Pokemons, or even just 1 better Pokemon than what I have created in this list, put it down in the comments and let me know. Yo, you made it to the end of the video. That means you like seeing my beautiful ass. Now if you want to see more of me, check out the videos popping up on the screen here, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Peace.